hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's edition of the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories From Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here. Thank you guys for being here, and thank you so much for continuing to support what we're doing here on the portal. Our Monday podcast is out there. If you haven't heard it yet, make sure you take a listen. Don and I worked extra hard to create a whole atmosphere. It's not just true ghost stories, but it's also a lot of atmospherics we put into there, and we hope you enjoy it and makes even more listening pleasure. If you would, please let me know if you have listened to it and what you thought of the sound, and what's going on during those stories. Do you guys enjoy that? Is that something you guys like? Is it something that you find enhances the stories? Let us know how you're feeling, because we're just trying it out. It's just an opportunity to flesh out the show with a little more, it's quite a bit more effort, but hopefully it gives the show quite a bit more value as well. So let us know what you think. We're always curious, and we're always looking to enhance and improve what we're doing here on the portal. So your opinions mean a lot to us. So let me know if you can, or let us know via email. You can message directly on Facebook or whatever. Just like to hear what you guys are thinking about shows like on Monday's show today. It's Living a Haunted Life, I think is what I called it. I don't remember. I'm naming so many shows anymore. I don't know what the hell time it is. It's called Living a Haunted Life. I was right. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think of it. If you enjoy it, if you'd like to hear more of that, that would be great. Oh, hello, Julie. Of course I missed you. Great. Welcome back. Good to see you. And I need an excuse slip in the office by tomorrow morning. I'm just kidding. There's no excuses necessary. If you can't make the show, it happens. I mean, I love when you guys show up for the live shows. It's really incredible to me, and I really enjoy that you guys are always a part of what we're doing. And I also enjoy meeting new listeners all the time, like Ona Holly. Good to see you. Thank you for coming in. That's a new name to me, and welcome to the show. Thank you so much, and I'd love to hear how you heard about us, or if you just stumbled onto it. Either way, it's wonderful you're here. So let's see who is all here. Of course, people filter in for a while, and I think a lot of that may have to do with the fact that the notifications are not instantaneous. And that's the one reason that I do the show at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 days a week, so that you guys know if it's coming up to whatever 7 p.m. Pacific Times means for your time zone, you'll know there's a show going on, and it just, I used to do the shows like on our mother network, Truth Frequency Radio, or TFR Live. We had a 10 p.m. slot, and we'd do a 10 p.m. till midnight Pacific time slot initially. And that was fine, but then Don and I decided to add the Wednesday show just because it was such a long stretch between, and we both missed doing it, but we also felt like, we could add more to what we're doing on the show, and that would be fun. But we did that at 7 p.m., so people would get confused between the two different times. And then when I started doing the bedtime stories, I thought, well, what time should I do those? And I think I was gearing towards like 5 or 6 p.m. And so we would have had 3 different times going on. No, I guess the bedtime stories, everything was already at 7 p.m. on TFR by that time. But I just thought, everything's at 7 p.m. That's it. That's when we do the shows. Now, the podcasts don't matter as much because those are pre-recorded, but you know what I'm saying. So anyway, enough of me gabbing and blabbing and filling your ears with noise. I guess we should move on with the show, so I hope you all are ready because it's time for bed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is now officially, the show is underway. And let's see. First of all, who's here? All right. So we got Black Tree, Julius here. Brian Sullivan, the Duke is in the house. Cameron's in the house. Cha-Cha is in the house. Good to see you, Cha-Cha and Cam. And Chris Jarvis, good to see you. Duck Sauce, how you doing, brother? Gemini Moon is here. Hi, Gemini. I am Pam is here. Ian Baker, good to see you, Ian. Wonderful to see you. Isaac Areola, good to see you. Josh Jacobs. Kylie Victoria. Hi, Kylie. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Mary Brem, Matthew Learned, Mulgayon Monster, and Ona Holly is the names that are appearing right now. Oh, there's more. There's me and Renee Cruz. Sorry, Renee, you ended up way in the end of the list. I guess it doesn't go past R right now, so R is the bottom of the list. I forgot to use my scroll wheel, so somebody just came in, I think, but I had the list moved, but I didn't see who it is. So if I didn't give you a shout out, just let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to see it. I can't always see the chat too much because, well, there's just a lot going on in the show, but maybe if I stretched it out. Now it's a tall chat. I kind of like that better. Okay, I've never done that before, but I like it. You'd swear I just got a computer, right? I've been using computers for so long, it's scary, but sometimes I forget some of the things we can do. So, oh yeah, shout out to Sean. Yep, absolutely. Our hearts are going out to him. He's just going through a real stressful time right now. So send lots of positive vibes to our brother Sean, who has given of himself pretty freely to help people dealing with very hard negative haunts. He is a psychic and has really excelled at giving those unwanted visitors the eviction notice. So unfortunately, he's just having a rough time right now. So our hearts go out to him. We're pulling for him to pull it all back together because he has been a rock for so many of our listeners and such a incredible help and giving so freely and openly and continuously of himself and his skills. So, of course, we're sending him our love. Not that anything, absolutely horrible I don't think is going on. I just think it's just one of those times. And I told him, you keep, when you're doing the kind of work he's doing, of course, it's going to get heavy sometimes. And he's such a trooper. He's such an amazing rock. So we really appreciate him, and he's been an amazing gift for all of us. So send him your love and light. Not that I'm one of the flowery love and light people, but I think that, those things are powerful. And so anyway, let's get on with the show. I've got some scary stories. Well, I've got stories. I don't know if they're scary or not. I guess we'll find out together, but these, I hope, are good stories. All right, so this is kind of a long one, so I'll start it with this one. And this one is coming from California, home of Cha-Cha. Home of Cha-Cha. I cracked myself up. All right, so that name kills me anyway. Cha-Cha. What the hell? All right, back to business here. All right. Okay, during college, I spent some time living at my grandparents' house. While not being what? No, I read this one already. Never mind. We're not going to California. I read this one yesterday. I forgot to close it. Derp. Yep, it's rookie night here on the portal, and you guys are all here to enjoy and share in the rookie night with me. You'd swear I just got a microphone, right? All right. Let's go to Texas instead. So, all right. Would somebody else come in? Belle. Who's Belle? Oh, Belle Prepper. Good to see you. I didn't see you there before, so welcome. All right. Going to Texas. If I'm not doing that part. I've always been an angry person, and I don't know why, but I used to be so cold and mean. If I didn't get my way, I thought everyone had to suffer as well. I think most teenage kids think that though. Well, I don't think so at all, but anyway. Well, as you can imagine, people didn't always like me. I mostly fought with guys because they thought I would take their crap, and I never did. Around the age of 17, I would say certain things and they'd happen. It was very coincidental, and my friends were really freaked out by it, so they told me to pick someone, pick a date and a time and what was going to happen, and we'll all see what happens. Well, I did, and it happened. I think it involved some girl we didn't like getting a speeding ticket or something to that nature, nothing bad. This girl, by the way, messed around with spells and whatnot, and she was not a nice person. Well, after that incident, I felt pretty powerful because of it. I had some kind of gift that no one else had, and at least that's how I thought of it then. My views have changed a lot since I was a kid. People would try and throw stuff at me when I wasn't looking, and I would catch it. Like my reflexes were extra sensitive. And now I know a lot of you are thinking, what's this girl on? Well, I wouldn't believe it myself if someone told me this, but this stuff really did happen. And I freaked a few people out because of it. It wasn't terrifying in any way, just really weird. And I think my best friend, when she'd tell people about it, they beefed it up some as well. Back to the anger issue, when I would get mad, I would wish bad things to happen to people, nothing fatal, but something significant. And now I don't remember exactly what I wished to happen because I did this a lot, and my anger created a playing field for my so-called gift. Could it have been coincidence? I don't know. Well, little did I know that it would be a heavy burden on me. I was always sick, and my depression just got worse and worse. I began hating myself and pushing my friends away. I was really very destructive, and at the time, I didn't realize any of it was connected, but now I know that it was. Now, even though I still believe that this has something to do with our minds, I can't help but wonder why things came back to me. Was it karma? Maybe? I strongly believe in mind over matter. Our brains are very powerful, but most of us use very little of it, and I guess some people can activate some weird powers our brains have. I don't know. I think it's possible for anyone to will something to happen. It happens all the time. Most of us don't even realize it. After a few years, I finally had to convince myself to stop wishing such negative things on people. It never made me feel any better. Negativity can bring you down really low, and I've been there many times and don't wish to go back there. The only demons I've faced are my own. Another weird incident happened when I was like 18, I believe. My friend, her boyfriend, his friend, and I all went to see Independence Day, and on our way to the theater, a man was leaving as we were coming, and things began to move in slow motion for me. I had locked eyes with this man, and I had no idea who he was, and he said, "God?" And I replied back with, "No, I'm not God." And then things were in real time because I heard my friends laughing, and the dude looked at me confused and said he had asked me if I was okay or something. It was strange. We still laugh about that to this day, but I can't understand why that happened. What was the significance? Was it hallucinating? Did my mind go nuts? I don't know. Things like that still happen sometimes, but I ignore them because I know people think I'm crazy. The next one may be paranormal or my mind was just playing tricks on me. I mentioned the depression earlier in the story, and I didn't start medicating myself until I was 25, and I was really against drugs, but apparently not marijuana, for a large part of my life. But by the time I was 25, I'd gone to a dark place and couldn't come out of it. Well, I saw a doctor, and he put me on antidepressants, which it made me catatonic, so I stopped using them. So he put me on something else, and it didn't help me. In fact, I felt worse. Well, I don't want to admit this, but I tried to end my life once, one night after days and days of continuous crying and self-loathing. I failed, thankfully, and I spent a week in the psych ward. The doctors really didn't tell me anything. They were really very rude. The nurses were nice, and so were the counselors that they had on staff, for group meetings we all had to attend 3 times a day. I did not know what drugs they were making me take, but they made me extremely tired and groggy when I had to wake up, so I was in this stoned-like state a lot. The last day I was there, I woke up at 5 in the morning. I looked around and it was pitch black and I was a bit groggy. I lied back down and tried to go back to sleep. A little bit later, I felt someone sit on the bed with me. And these are those thermal hospital beds that have air in them, so if someone sits on the corner, the other side will raise some. So something sat on the bed, and I thought it was my mom who had come early to pick me up. I opened my eyes, and no one was there. I was a bit freaked out, so I went and talked to one of the nurses in the nurses' station, and she just told me to try to go to sleep. I was still out of it, so I did what she said. When it was time to check out, the doctor came in and gave me prescriptions for 2 antidepressants, one with anti-anxiety, and a schizophrenic drug called, Seroquel. I don't know if that's what it's called. Seroquel, I guess. At the time, I didn't know its purpose. Well, I get home, and I kept seeing black objects in the corner of my eyes, and I'd wake up from sleeping and see spiders coming down towards my head and from all their webs. Well, I hate spiders. I was freaking out, and I went online and tried to see what the side effects of these drugs were, and that's when I found out that about Seroquel. It's Seroquel. I immediately stopped taking it, and the side effects eventually stopped. Has anyone else had problems with antidepressants? Well, that's not what this is about. I mean, I do know that pharmacology can really screw you up, obviously, and sometimes the things the doctors give you are just so horrible. When you listen to the commercials on TV, it's like, well, it treats gas, but it says may induce depressing thoughts or death. It's like, well, I think I'll just deal with the gas, thanks. I don't know what the hell is going on, but when the side effects are so much more intense than the actual problem, I think you just deal with the actual problem. Some of that stuff is just scary. Not to mention that it's usually some strange cocktail, and you just don't know how it's going to react to you personally. And nobody can tell you that kind of stuff. I mean, you just don't know until you start taking it. But man, some of that stuff is absolutely terrifying. So anyway, the next story. Oh, by the way, excuse me, I should mention this. The call-in board is open if you want to call in and share a story of your own, something that happened to you. Please feel free. The number is 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. Or you can look up here, and it's above my head, right underneath the words Paranormal Portal on your screen. So always able to call into the portal. All right, next story is coming from Michigan. I got family in Michigan, so got that going for me. I used to stay with my Aunt Debbie and Uncle Joe every few weeks or so, as I was close to my cousin Jennifer, and they had a big pool in their backyard and a really nice deck. And we would swim and lay out all day, playing house, pretending to be women and not 2 girls of 6 and 8 years old. It was a good time. One day, a girl and a boy came over, both of whom must have been associated with my cousin in some way. I don't remember their names, so for the sake of the story, we'll call them John and Sally. John and Sally Doe. John and Jane, isn't it catchy? Gotcha. Jennifer didn't seem to care much for them, but Aunt Debbie didn't want either of us to be rude to our guests, so we played together nonetheless, and she made us lemonade, and the 4 of us sat out on the deck talking, and John showed off some cool diving techniques in the pool. Perhaps they wouldn't be so cool to a 19-year-old Brittany, but the 6-year-old Brittany was quite pleased. And Sally honestly didn't do much of anything that stood out, but I suppose it wouldn't be far-fetched to say that I was probably had a small crush on John. Both children had yet to lose their baby fat, I suppose. Sally had a really long, mousy brown hair, which she tied back, and she was wearing a one-piece bathing suit, and I think that it was black with a couple of really big pink flowers. I don't remember all that much about their appearance. However, when the evening was nearing, both John and Sally said that they had to return home. or they could risk a good grounding. So Jennifer and I walked them out to the sidewalk where we said our goodbyes. And I was always shy as a child, and I remember standing in front of Sally, Jennifer in front of John, and the sunlight nearly blinding me, feeling somewhat antisocial. I never liked the end of the day because it meant the end of fun, and I suppose I felt a little sad too. I looked down at the sidewalk and noticed that Sally's toenail was black, but not from nail polish, and I asked her what did she do to it. Sally explained that her father was mowing the lawn when he told her to move out of the way, but she wouldn't listen, and he accidentally hit her toe. Good God. John was silent. I asked her if it hurt, and she said that she cried, and when it happened. I recalled an instance that happened not too long ago of my best friend Timothy, who injured his finger while helping his dad saw wood because he heard me throwing a tantrum next door. We lived in the same apartment building. He wasn't seriously hurt, but his fingernail surely was. I told Sally about this, but she didn't say much, or at least enough that I could remember now, 12 or 13 years later, but they both turned and walked away, and Jennifer and I followed suit. 2 weeks passed, and I found myself spending the night with my aunt and uncle once again, and one morning I went into Aunt Debbie's room while she was applying her makeup and asked her if she remembered John and Sally, and I was hoping that if I mentioned them in a nonchalant way, she would invite them over again, but I could avoid awkward questions. Remember when I said I was shy? But her answer wasn't what I expected at all. Who are John and Sally? Confused, I tried to explain who they were, the two kids that came over and played with Jennifer and myself, and she made us lemonade, and she told us not to be rude. However, my Aunt Debbie became slightly angry at Jennifer for having friends over without her permission. And Jennifer, equally confused, argued that she didn't know a John or Sally Doe. And I argued on her behalf that Aunt Debbie was there and met them, and I just wanted them to come play with us again. No go. Neither of them remembered John and Sally's visit. Jennifer swore she never met them. Aunt Debbie thought I was telling stories. I was just confused, and to this day, John and Sally don't exist. Well, that's creepy. That's all kinds of creepy. I don't know. That'd be really weird. But that's the paranormal, folks. I don't know what to say. Weird. All right. Back to Michigan again. Michigan's popular tonight. All right. When I was away at school, my mom took care of my little Yorkie, Lily Sue, and Lily was a couple months old, weighing about 2 pounds. And when my mom left for work in the morning, she made sure to place a gate at the end of the kitchen and the beginning of the hallway, where a potty pad was also in place, as well as Lily's food, water, and her favorite toys, which were socks, to be perfectly honest. And this worked just fine for months. Lily's gate was also placed directly under the handle to the attic door, which basically hangs from the ceiling, and my dad is the only one in the house who can reach it, but he worked an entirely different shift than my mom, and one evening, maybe 20 minutes after my mom returned home from work, she scooped Lily up in her arms and took her outside with her while she smoked a cigarette. As soon as the screen door shut, she heard a loud thud. She ran into the house immediately to find that a large, heavy tote full of old family portraits had fallen into Lily's potty pad, where both of them had just been seconds before. Of course, the tote had fallen out of the attic, but the attic also latches into the ceiling. One must grab the handle to unlatch the door and then pull down the ladder in order to gain access to our attic. The most important detail, in my opinion, is that this tote was pushed the farthest back from the door, so far, in fact, that it was slightly hidden in the floor insulation behind other totes. All of the glass was shattered, the frames broken, and the family portraits were strewn about the kitchen floor. That's the whole story, but man, that's wicked. Huh. You have to wonder how much energy does that take. If these spirits were once human, does that imply then that we have those same abilities? Was it possible that people could, if they could unlock those parts of the physical brain, to match the ability of the spirit. Could we move things with our minds, and it's pretty wild to think about. I don't know. It's all just mysteries, I guess, but it's just the stuff that occurs to me as I read stories like that. It's like, how can they do that? How does that work? And, we hear it all the time. Things moving, things turning on, things turning off, things shattering, things getting broken, doors opening and closing, rattling handles. Always something, there's some movement, and it's obviously they don't have a body. They don't have a physical body to interact with the physical stuff. So they're able to do it in a different way. And, maybe it's not necessary to use the body. I don't know. But we seem to be really tied into the idea that everything we do is focused through our brains. While these spirits without a body aren't working with a physical brain. And so what is our brain exactly? Does it have anything to do with our ability to develop ourselves in, spiritual matters? Probably not. But I don't know. Just curious things that always go through my head about this stuff as I'm reading them. It's like, huh. All right, back to Michigan. I was trying to write a paper, a really important paper at that, when I received an unexpected call from my mom. She didn't even bother to say hello. Are you coughing? I was a little surprised, but I told her that I had actually triggered my asthma the week before, but all symptoms had ceased and I was just fine. I asked her what the deal was, and she seemed really shocked that I wasn't dying. My mom had always been the dramatic one in the family, and then started explaining to me that she had just gotten home from work, had just eaten dinner, and just started watching Reba on Lifetime when, quite distinctly, she heard me coughing in my bedroom. Completely forgetting that she was all alone in the house, as she was every evening, she yelled out something about getting a drink of water or taking my inhaler, and stopped herself mid-sentence when reality struck her, and she remembered I was away at school. She went on to say that I didn't respond, surprise, and that she did peek inside my room and no one was there, surprise, and that she was, to say the least, really creeped out. I told her that she must have been hearing things and maybe she had just overtired from work. It's funny that the kid is playing the role of the parent now. Anything to get her off the phone so that I could finish my paper, when she said, "But this isn't the first time." I was a little tired myself, and she was afraid that our house was haunted, so I told her I really needed to get off the phone to write the paper for class, and she unwillingly hung up, and she hasn't mentioned it since. Whoa, that's pretty powerful. Now, I do believe that mothers are always cued to their babies. I mean, I just think there's just some really profound connection there that doesn't necessarily fade with time. There's all kinds of stories out there of people being in very distant places from their mom, but their mom has the sense that something's going on and will contact the child to find out that there was indeed something going on. So, I don't know. Very strange stuff, though. That's a good story, though. I like that. I now I'm just curious. What now? What's going on now? So that happened. Did she not revisit this with her mom? Did she not go, well, I'm going to call you after the paper is done, and then call and find out what the hell mom has been dealing with there all by herself? That's really freaky. Or you got to wonder, do we, through the course of our lives, shed parts of our spirit? In other words, not like losing ourselves, but rather getting rid of parts of ourselves. Like, for instance, when we make a change, when we change something about ourselves, say we have a destructive part of our personality and we really work hard to change that, is there also a spiritual shedding then of that energy? And that could potentially have a consciousness of its own. These, again, things that I think about. It's kind of a theme tonight. What do I think about? Well, I think about why these things would happen. Why would it mimic the exact sound of the child? And so maybe Maybe it was at one point part of that lady, and maybe it was something that she changed in her teen years, and when she went off to college, it just stayed. I don't know, something to think about anyway. I think there might be something to that perhaps those parts of ourselves that we change and stop somehow, if maybe our changes have a very spiritual manifestation as well, that when those parts are released, do they have a consciousness? Can they develop a consciousness? I don't know. Very strange stuff, though. Pennsylvania is next, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to Pennsylvania, and I see we're not getting any calls, so that's good. I mean, it's not good or bad, I guess. You guys are welcome to call in if you have a story of your own. 720-923-0500, but I always worry that I'm leaving somebody on hold a long time, so when I check and I don't see anybody, that means I'm doing my job. And right then, the phone lights up. So let's get to this call. Area code 423, you're on the air.
Hey, Brent. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. This is Duck Sauce.
Hey, Duck. Good to hear from you, brother. How's the world in your place? How are things in your world?
It's good, man. It's good.
Good.
10:30 here where I'm at, but I'm still kicking.
I'm glad you're spending it with us here on the portal, man. That's awesome.
Oh yeah. So I'm laying here, right? I'm just kind of thinking back on things, and I was thinking, man, maybe I should call, because you know how you go through life, and then every once in a while something happens. It kind of gives you an epiphany, a new way to look at an old paradigm or conundrum that you pondered for years.
Oh, sure.
And then just moments ago, you started speaking on the subject that I was going to call in about. So I was like, wow, how serendipitous.
Serendipity, brother. That's great. What do you have to share? I'm excited to hear what you got on your.
All right. Okay, so we're going to go back about 25 years. I had an NDE, a near-death experience, but post-death experience. When I came back, I was clinically dead. Oof. But that aside, where I'm going with this is, and it's a very long story, and I struggle with the spoken word. The written word I'm much better at, because I can sit and edit what I'm going to say.
Sure.
But I had the tunnel experience. Going through the tunnel, what stuck in my craw, if you will, for years, there's all kinds of things, but as I'm flying through this tunnel, I don't know the right words, and I haven't found the right word in English. I called myself light, just energy, just beyond anything that I don't know the right word for it.
Sure.
Light, whipping through this tunnel.
Okay.
And below me, to me, it looked like a tunnel. I don't know what it was. Actually, Sean had done a scrying for me. I guess you call that where he looks into the water bowl.
Sure.
And because I had asked him this question. I saw all these, what I called lost souls. I didn't know what to call them. Lost souls, shadowy like people milling about the tunnel floor. So I called into one of his shows, or I wrote in actually, and I asked him, "What's this mean?" So he said, "No, yeah, they're people that took a wrong turn, etc. And they're what you said. They're lost souls, essentially." All right, so I hypothesized on this for a while, and I'm wondering, what are these lost souls? Because there were people from, it seemed like, I don't know, there was all kinds of, they had clothing of a sort, right? And there were like different eras represented.
Sure.
And all this is happening. Excuse me. All this is happening in an instant, as I'm going through this tunnel. So everything's kind of looking back like a memory, if you will.
Right.
So why are these people here? That's what I'm wondering for years. And I've come up with some interesting theories on it. And one of which is, I figure that, sorry, man. Give me 1 second. I got to plug in my phone. I apologize.
No worries at all. Knock yourself out. That's pretty.
Sorry about that. I didn't look
amazing.
at my battery whenever I called in.
That's
phone
okay.
started beeping on me. All right. So one of the things I had hypothesized is that, as for myself, when I entered the tunnel, and it was like a shedding. I kind of what I would have called a physical self, but it wasn't like, but yeah, I guess what I would have called physical was shed off of me. Like I was flying so fast that if you can imagine just friction, I suppose, in a way, just kind of burned off this body. It wasn't like fire, but it was just, I left that behind and I was just energy.
Right.
Okay, so I'm thinking that these lost souls, that the being, the person that they once were, that it like the things I saw milling about, I started more recently calling them like husks, like the shell, like an insect casts off a shell, a husk. But these things, they were animated. They moved around. They kind of seemed to just sort of wander, if you will, almost like you see the Walking Dead and the zombies kind of walking around. Not like that, but they didn't have much purpose. All right, so my thoughts go to, well, maybe these things, I started calling it the harvester of sorrows, or the harvester, that this energy has to dissipate somewhere, and these things just linger about until they finally dissipate. All right, so okay, that's, that makes sense. And also that the tunnel has, there was two entrances, if you will. There was the entrance that I came in, and through the light that I went out. So I thought, okay, maybe some of them, I suppose, the way they were milling about, they could wander back out the entrance door, like I came in. They could just by happenstance wander back out, and that's why we see ghosts. All right, so I went with that for a little while. Now, earlier tonight, I was responding to a post that Sean had done on Facebook. And when I'm in the moment and I'm typing, how you just kind of, you sort of say things without really thinking, and then you go back and you can edit it and whatever, but things just come out.
Yeah.
And I had said that these people that have hurt you through the years, they're stuck in limbo. They're stuck. They're waiting for the return on what they did to you. They're waiting for that. I don't know how I phrased it. I wish I would have pulled it up on Facebook because I phrased it so eloquently in the written word. But just as you were saying moments ago about, what is it causes these things to linger? And I'm thinking to myself, wow, man, maybe some of these weren't husks after all. Maybe they really were stuck there until people that they have harmed in their lifetime, like there's an accounting. Like one time I had called in about some insects that I had to answer to before I got through the pearly gates.
Yes.
That shook me out of it. But if a person harms another human, maybe they really are kind of stuck lingering until a recompense happens of some sort. Either the human who is still living works through the trauma and releases it and lets it go. All right, so now it's gone. And now whatever happens on the other side, that person lives through their retelling of their story, or, they get to re-experience things through the eyes of the victim, or however you put it.
Right.
But if you hold on to that, this is another part of it. I pondered that, as we go through life, we have to let go of attachments, if you will. I once called it just the bad stuff and whatnot, but I think it has to do with more than that. It's a bit broader. But you let go of things, or you learn to let go of things as you go through life, so that when eventually death does come, the transition is very smooth. But if you bottle stuff up for your entire lifetime, there's this very dense husk that maybe lingers for a very long time. And what I kind of started to liken as a large sewer system. That's kind of what it felt like. It's like a sewer system where the energy dissipates.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of that. But it just occurred to me earlier that, hey, wow, man. Maybe these things do have to linger. They don't have any choice. They have to linger until justice is done.
Right. Now,
I know that was a lot, man.
I had a theory about this a few years back, and I guess I can just tell you, and you can tell me what you think. But I was trying to understand, the whole dynamics of this. So, the virtue of us being alive means that we have a spark of divinity, and I think we have our whole lives, and I believe the object is to develop that grow it and, to become more of a profound light, whatever that means. And so during the course of our lives, because I'm trying to understand if the perfection of divinity, can it be corrupted? Can the divinity be corrupted and then become something else? And that to me felt like, wow, there's something really broken if that's the case, because then there's all these other things out there. And what are ghosts then? But the conclusion that I came up with, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong, I don't know if this is absolutely flaky and weird. I just don't know. I mean, I'm just in my own little bubble trying to sort through this stuff. But what I thought about was that throughout the course of our lives, we make mistakes. We do stupid things, and everybody's going to. It's just a matter of human existence that we're going to screw up. And but I think at the end of our term, when we shed our body once again, that spark still returns back to the divine source. But it can be greater and bigger, but whatever is not divine has to stay. So it's very much like what you're explaining. And that part has that part has an energy, and it has a consciousness as well. And so that very well could be what we end up seeing as ghosts, are these parts that weren't able to return back to the source because they can't. They're not perfect. They're not in that divine state. They're in this state of confusion and pain and negativity. And I think the intensity of that energy is determined by how much of the spark we developed and how much we corrupted, because the corrupted part has to fall off. Now, I don't mean that there's this growing army of evil out there. That's not what I'm trying to say, but I just think that then those parts have to be left on this plane because they can't re-enter that divine realm. And so, that we understand as heaven or the afterlife, whatever. But those parts do have a consciousness because they were sparked by that same divinity. I do think that perhaps they do continue to work through those things. I think that's the object, is that they continue to work through them to eventually be able to return back themselves. But, I don't know. What do you think of that?
I had two thoughts that came to mind while you were speaking. One is that what I saw on the tunnel floor is perhaps a combination. It's a combination of those people who held on to again, I want to say bad stuff, and I want to say negative attachments, and I want to say that, but I think it's a bit deeper than that. I think even good attachments are bad attachments after life, if you will, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to call them attachments. Mm-hmm. So that's what they were. But also, there was also probably mixed into that crowd those people who still they're waiting for the justice that they have coming to them, not in a victim sense. They were the perpetrator. They're waiting for either the living person to cast off that trauma and give it back to the ethers, give it back to wherever it goes, and then that person waiting in the tunnel can finally, make amends, or however that works, however that bit works. Sure. The other thing that came to mind is the pineal gland. Now, I don't know really how, I don't know how woo-woo I get with this, but you know how they talk about the calcifying of the pineal gland, and the pineal gland's supposed to be, a third eye type thing and whatnot. Mm-hmm. When you were talking about the divine spark, etc., and the corruption, that's what came to mind, is the calcifying of the pineal gland, which is ultimately, we're saying the same thing, I think.
Yeah, it's semantics, yeah.
Go ahead.
I'd just say, yeah, I think we are too. It's just our semantics are a little bit different, but it's the same core message, yeah.
Yeah, the spark, and I also feel, I had a thought too that the more we develop that divine spark that you referred to, the less calcification, if you will, the less attachments, the less the husk left over after death, that energy that just has to wander around the tunnel floor until the sewer system takes care of it, or the energy dissipates. The more we develop that divine spark, the less of that there's going to be. And that can happen in our living world, and it also happens in death, conversely, I guess, to the exact same ratio.
Right. No, I think you're right. I think
But I don't know.
you're right on it. I think that's what I agree with your thinking.
Yeah, it was just like I said, man. It occurred to me earlier tonight, and I know I never really called and talked about the near-death experience before, so
Yeah.
kind of had a lot of backstory to give.
Wow.
But I was like, wow, man, maybe some of these people are having to hang out until, in essence, the traumatized human is binding them, if you will.
Sure.
Not through a conscious effort, through an unconscious effort, but their pain binds them, the dead person or whatever, to this world.
Very cool. Yeah. I think you're right, brother. I mean, it's a great theory. It's a wonderful theory, and I think it makes sense to me. And maybe that's because I had a similar revelation myself. But I guess none of us know for sure. But at least the dialogue of that makes sense to me a lot.
Yeah, it's an evolving theory, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you did great with the spoken word for what it's worth.
Right on. All right, man. I'll let you get back to the show. I love you, brother.
I love you too, man.
We'll see you later.
Thanks so much for calling in and being a part of it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. All right. We'll see you. Good night.
That's wonderful. I like that. I like discussing philosophies and possibilities and stuff. That to me is incredibly wild. And I swear to God, I am so amazed at the number of people that listen to this show that have had near-death experiences. It's just really, there's a lot of you out there that have been through that, and what an amazing thing. I had a couple near deaths, but I don't think I had any experiences with them. But I nearly drowned when I was young, and I 2 times actually. Once when I was swimming and forgot how, just like that, and I was drowning, and another time when I was just on a dock and a windstorm blew up and knocked a big cement block off of a birdhouse that was like 20 feet in the air, and it fell right on my head, and I went unconscious and fell in the water. And it ended up falling from my head onto my friend's foot, broke his foot, but somehow he and a smaller friend were able to pull me out of the water before I had drowned. But yeah, it was just a couple of times that happened. So very strange. That and adverse reactions to anesthesia. Anyway, but I don't recall any experiences. I don't recall any tunnel of light or conversations or anything. And I'm so fascinated by that topic because I think, if anything, the near-death experiences really do reinforce the idea that, not that at this point in my life that I need that reinforcement, but there was a time when I was questioning, and I think the near-death experiences, the NDEs, really reinforce that we do go on, we do continue. This isn't the end of the journey. This is just a part of it, just a small part of our soul journey, whatever that means. But yeah, I think the cool thing is that when people come back with those wisdoms, they come back with those observations, and they're able to share that with the rest of us. And I think that's very cool. I ended up reading years ago a few of the books by Raymond Moody. His work with near-death experiences was just incredible, and especially with small children. He interviewed many small children to get past the idea that, with adults, we have preconceived notions, we have preconceived ideas about what is next. And so he wanted to, he had collected the adult stories for a long time, but he wanted to talk to kids because they don't have the predisposed ideas like what to expect. Kids just are, open and honest, and he still found those same similarities, the same tunnel of light and the same conversations with people on the other side, whether they be a religious figure or just ancestors. But there are those people that would say, well, that's the naturally occurring DMT release in the brain that causes that experience, and while some of that sensational traveling through the tunnel may be influenced by a DMT dump, I don't think there's really any scientific evidence that is indeed what people are experiencing. Now, there's plenty of people that have had these near-death experiences that have been brain dead. So there shouldn't have been any cerebral activity at all. And they come back with these incredible tales, including being able to see what's happening in other rooms or where people that they love were at that time, which weren't even at the location or hospital or anything. In their homes, they were like, suddenly I was standing next to so and so, and he was doing this, and then by investigating that, sure enough, that's what that person was doing at that time. So just really cool experiences. And so I'm just amazed at how many of you guys have been through those kind of things. I mean, literally, there's at least a dozen people that watch this show regularly that have reported to me that they've had near-death experiences. So I'm not sure what kind of crowd we got, but I know I love all of you guys. You guys are all amazing. So anyway, let's get on. Let's see what we got with the time. I want to end with maybe one more story. Yeah, we're at 51 minutes into the show, so let's do another story. This one's from Pennsylvania. It sounds pretty interesting. I don't know how creepy this is going to be, but it has something to do with the devil. So hang on to your shocks there, ladies and gentlemen. This might get a little sticky. This story takes place in 1986 when I was 8 years old, and it was June, and my grandfather had passed away a week or two before Father's Day, and all of our family went to the graveyard after the wake like families do. Most of the grown-ups are gathered at the grave, and all of us kids, probably 20 of us, were all standing further away, talking, and some were playing tag around the headstone. I know, not very respectful, but we were a lot of little kids all being really impatient. All of a sudden, all of the noises stopped. The birds weren't chirping, and I can't remember the adults talking. I couldn't even hear the other kids, and I looked around, and I saw something out of the corner of my eye walking along the edge of the graveyard right next to the tree line. And I weaved through the other kids to get a better look, and right there walked the devil, red skin, horns, tail, and all. Well, I was just frozen, unable to move or talk. I couldn't do anything but stand there and stare. Well, after what seemed like a long time, I was able to look around, and my little brother was standing next to me, and he was 5. I don't remember him coming up to me. I was still terrified and went to find my mother, and I took my little brother by the hand to go find her. The whole time I was trying to keep my eye on the tree line to see if I could see him. When I found my mom, I tried to get her to look around, but my little brother was crying. Come to think of it, I was probably 2. My mom wouldn't pay any attention to us, so I started yelling, "Just look over there." I guess I was making a big scene, so my mom pulled me and my brother away from the adults and asked what was wrong, and I told her to look, but she said all she saw was a man walking along the edge of the graveyard. I remember saying, "A man? You see a man?" And she said, "Yes, a man in a black suit." She also told me to calm down and that the man was probably walking over there not to disturb us. She also told us we had to quit carrying on, and we were at a funeral and we had to be respectful. I stood right next to her the rest of the time with my little brother attached to her other side. No one saw him, no other kids, not any of the grown-ups, just I think my little brother, but he wouldn't ever talk about it. When I would ask him, he would say he didn't see anything and would get me in trouble for scaring him. So I eventually dropped it, but I know what I saw, and I can still see it to this day, if I think about it. Being an adult now, I've tried to process it, but still come up with the same thing. I saw the devil that day, in the graveyard. My brother would never talk about it, not even years later, but he has been in trouble all of his life. Detention home, to prison, to drugs, you name it. I always wondered if that day had something to do with it. He insists he doesn't know what I'm talking about, and he says he doesn't even remember the funeral. Maybe he's blocking it out. I eventually told my mother, but it wasn't for about a year since it happened, and when I told her, she did say she believed me, and she was sorry for not paying attention to me when I was that upset. I have had other paranormal experiences throughout my life, but nothing has ever compared to the fear and stomach-dropping feeling I had that day. I guess that would be pretty creepy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I guess that's going to wrap up our journey for tonight. And I don't know how many music fans are out there, but of course, Rick Ocasek of the Cars fame has passed away. And I used to love the Cars. I used to love their music. I mean, I still love it, but that was, it's just kind of the passing of one of the icons. So I don't know if that means anything to any of you or not, but just a nod to Rick Ocasek. I hope you're driving the car up in the sky. So, all right, everybody. I guess I love y'all. I mean, I don't guess that. I know that, but I just saw that Cade must have stopped in. Good to see you, Cade. Cade Moya, ladies and gentlemen, of the Believe podcast out of Australia, who was our guest on the portal not too long ago. But he's since told me that I have to make an appearance on the Believe podcast. So I'll be really thrilled to do that. This Friday, I just want to let you guys know, on the podcast, I did an interview with Wes Germer yesterday, and it turned out really, really good. So I'm excited to release that one, but that'll be on our podcast. Now, I need to clarify something, because I think I'm getting a lot of different messages about people thinking that this YouTube channel is a podcast, and is not. This is not the same thing that I'm talking about when I say the podcast. The podcast is an audio-only presentation that you can download via iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Chatbox, etc., etc. Just wherever you can find podcasts, and you can do a search where where to find podcasts. But when you find an application, do a search for Paranormal Portal, and there will be a whole catalog. There's 61 shows now, 61 or 62, that we now have available on our podcast catalog, and most of those are brand new episodes that you've never heard before. They're not on YouTube here, so but they're an audio only presentation, and so you go to these applications and you download the portal, the episode, and you can subscribe through those applications so that every time we release a new podcast, you're going to get a notification, and it should automatically download. If you like the podcast, which I hope you will, I would really appreciate it. It would do a lot for us if you go on iTunes and write a great review for us, because that'll help iTunes promote the podcast as well. And iTunes is really one of the biggest applications for podcasts out there. So if you do well in iTunes, you'll do well everywhere else. I'm not saying that I favor iTunes over any of the other ones. I think they're all great. But so this Friday, we will be releasing the interview with Wes Germer on Friday's podcast episode. So if you're not already checking out the Paranormal Portal podcast, please do that. And we would be really thrilled. But again, it's an audio-only file. You can download it so you can take it on the go. You don't need to have a dedicated internet connection to listen to it. So you download it to your phone. It's a MP3 file, and you can listen to it whenever you want, whether you have internet or not. So just pretty slick. So anyway, that's just to clarify what a podcast is, where to find it, and I hope you guys will check it out, and definitely check out Believe podcast as well, Cade's show, and of course Wes Germer's Sasquatch Chronicles, and the Confessionals podcast with Tony Merkel. Those are all the ones that I listen to regularly. I'm just a real fan of all of those guys. So that'll be happening. So we do 3 podcasts a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So we hope you'll go check it out. But anyway, guys, I guess that's going to wrap it up for tonight. I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. All right, guys, have a wonderful night, and I will talk to you soon. We'll see you tomorrow for more of the bedtime stories. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, sweet dreams.